Fidelity just released their 2025 retiree healthcare cost estimate. The number is staggering. $172,500 for a 65-year-old retiring today. The bigger problem, 1 in 5 Americans haven't even thought about healthcare costs in retirement. Today, we're gonna break down what this means, why it matters to you. So let me grab Walt and we'll dive right in.
Welcome to another edition of Power Your Retirement. I'm Walter Storholt alongside Steve Smith, certified financial planner. And yeah, we're talking healthcare on today's show. This new information out from Fidelity, and it's got that big estimate that you just mentioned, Steve, $172.5 thousand over the course of your lifetime for a 65-year-old. Making me nervous. I just am imagining what that number is going to look like by the time you and I get to retirement, right?
Crazy.
A little scary.
And when we talk about this, just the growth in it makes it even scarier. What's it going to be 20 years from now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk a little bit about what people can do to understand these numbers and some of the findings in this new report from Fidelity, which, by the way, we'll link to the full report in the description of today's show if you want to go check it out and read about all the findings that are in there. We'll cover some of the highlights today. First of all, and we're going to talk about how you can prepare based on some of this stuff. Why does this number matter? Why are we focusing on something like this?
Well, the number is because we're gonna experience these costs on average, at least in retirement. So that's the first reason it matters. But why it's staggering or why it's outrageous that we need to call more attention to it is back in 2002, which is just a little over 20 years ago, right? It cost $80,000 was the projection.
Wow.
And now it's $172,500.
So more than double.
Very, very different. And the number matters. So some people will be like, so what's all included in that? Because it's a little elusive. We just throw this big number out there.
Sure.
Well, it includes premiums, right? Co-pays, prescriptions, all those kinds of things are included in there. But it doesn't include things like long-term care. Okay. These are just purely medical. Long-term care is very different. These are just things that insurances we're going to have to buy, co-pays, all of that kind of stuff as we go through retirement. And depending on, what insurance you buy, I suppose, and how much medical you have, is going to affect that mix for you. But we're going with averages today.
The article also talked about a confidence gap. What does that typically mean in this kind of conversation?
Well, Americans are very nervous about retirement, but what's really alarming a lot of times was when I'm sitting down, with an individual or with a couple, is that they're not planning for healthcare. This 172 is nowhere in there. They're like a budget and this, that, and the other. Maybe the premium, if they've calculated it, depending on if they're retiring before or after Medicare type of deal. If they calculated that, maybe they have the supplement in there. But the point is that all those extra costs are very elusive to a lot of folks. And we're just calling attention to it because that's a big number to add to your retirement income.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of blind spots when it comes to planning for healthcare, and especially during your retirement years. Talked about how 1 in 5 haven't considered those healthcare costs in their plans yet. I also saw in the study Gen X is especially unprepared, which is not great news since they're next on the docket for being the big wave of retirees.
Right.
They're right in line with that 1 in 5 not having considered healthcare expenses at all when it comes to their plan. So that's a big concern for those folks.
It is, and I'm a Gen Xer, and 25%, 1 in 4, haven't considered it at all from my peer group. And that's just a little staggering to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. If it said Gen Z hasn't considered it much, I'd be like, okay, well, we got some time to work on Gen Z's prep, but not so much with Gen X. It's the time is tight. So
we're hitting up on those 50s. It's coming fast and furious.
Yes.
And also many don't realize that Medicare, isn't free and it doesn't cover everything.
Mm.
because
Common misconception, right? People kind of think once I hit retirement, okay, everything's covered for me. I don't have to worry about it.
yeah,
Got to
there's
suction
a
it.
couple free things in there, but when you get your Social Security, which is where it's normally hidden, you've got your top line Social Security, and then that Medicare is billed right in there in whatever parts that you have. So a lot of people don't think it because they don't get a bill for it, but it's definitely a cost.
So let's talk about opportunities. Since this is such a big problem, where can there be some leveraged opportunities, some help for folks? One thing that the article mentioned, and it's something we've mentioned briefly before as well on previous episodes, but let's dive into it for a moment here. The potential for HSAs to help fill in some of these gaps, some of these blind spots. For those who have the ability to do an HSA, can you talk to us about some of the opportunities that are there?
HSA is a wonderful gift. There's an FSA, that's nice too, but you have to spend it in the year. But HSA has it's a medical benefit that you can contribute to tax free. Okay. Then the other thing that it does is you don't have to spend it in the year, so it can accumulate. Beyond that, you can invest it, right? So make sure you get the right HSA plan that has investments tied to it. So if you're younger and you're putting more in than what you're taking out, you can make sure, push some over to the investment side, and that can accumulate because you can use HSA for all kinds of different things. You can use them, you can use them for the Medicare premiums even. There's a lot of things that you can do with that. And then post 65, there's even more. But I want to explain the triple tax advantage before I forget to tell all the viewers. And that is it goes in tax free. Okay. Top line, tax free, right out of your payroll. Okay. And then it grows tax free like a Roth would. So it grows tax free. And then if you use it for medical, it comes out tax free. So it's like tax free, like actual legit tax free. So that is a wonderful thing that can complement, the premiums have been tax free always, but now some of the expenses can if you plan for it appropriately.
Yeah, it's huge. And if you worry about maybe, well, I put this big balance in this HSA and then I have to use it all for healthcare expenses. Where's, oh, well, look at that big number, 170 plus thousand. So yeah, there's your maybe a goal or a target number to shoot for if you're getting closer to retirement and you're wondering how big should I build up my HSA? Well,
Yeah.
there's an opportunity right there based on how much you might be expected to spend throughout your lifetime in retirement. And for those of us who are younger, plan on a bigger number than that.
Yes, and if you start earlier, even some employers now are actually putting money in the HSA for you. So make sure if that's a benefit that you're getting it, because you do have to sign up for it to get it. But make sure you're getting that. Also, especially if you're younger and you're fairly healthy and you're not really pulling too much, make sure that you push that over, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, because only 23% per this study are using HSA in retirement.
Yeah.
3 in 10, which is a little bit better than 23 that are putting some money in. 3 in 10 are pushing it over to invest. And I have a lot of clients that over the years have saved close to, not quite to the top, but a majority of what it's going to cost in retirement. They've saved that before they retire an HSA.
That's great.
Which is phenomenal. It really is.
Yeah. Think about that. None of your other portfolios, none of your other, retirement plans then have to be part of that healthcare solution. It can all be designated straight out of the HSA and take care of all of those needs into the future, unless something obviously big and dramatic happens to push you way past that number. But still, it's going to help you for so long a period of time. It's just really good to leverage it. So enough on the HSAs there. If you have questions about HSAs specifically, definitely reach out. Talk to Steve about how that fits into the overall retirement planning picture. I'd be happy to help you on that. Contact information in the description of today's show. I want to circle back to Medicare. Steve, we talked about how that's one of these blind spots, one of these gaps. What are some of the other complexities around Medicare that trip people up as they're thinking? We're trying to get them thinking about healthcare more in their retirement plans. So what else trips people up there?
In that study, it said 37% of the people expect Medicare to cover most of the costs. which is definitely a misconception. I mean, there's a whole industry of the Medicare supplements that were created because it's woefully inadequate, Medicare in and of itself. So that was probably one of the most blaring things about it, is like people are expecting this to, like, we'll turn this on and it'll just cover, and I won't have to worry about anything medical after 65. But it's not true at all. We need to have very thoughtful conversation, not only with someone like myself, a financial advisor that's going to fund these, this $172,000, help you save for it and everything, but also with an insurance person that can get you into the right supplement that's really fit for you and your health and how much travel you're going to do. And there's just a lot of different things that go into planning for Medicare, for sure.
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities for education and planning, reviewing that you're in the right choices as you're trying to make those various selections. So there's a lot of support out there. And I thought that stat, that 55% of people anticipate enrollment to be difficult, it causes them stress to go through that. I found that to be unfortunate, because there are a lot of resources out there, and we shouldn't let this be a big stressful thing that prevents us from making good choices in retirement. So hopefully we can dispel some of that frustration and myth that surrounds Medicare.
Right. Yeah, definitely. You want to make sure that you're reaching out well in advance of your 65th birthday, because you want to get, even if you're still working past that birthday, you want to make sure that you get on the base Medicare and work with a health insurance professional that can make sure that you check all the boxes. So at least you're in the game, because there can be some penalties if you don't, even if you are working past 65, if you don't get that set up.
All right, Steve. So we've got the burden, $172.5 thousand in 2025. That's what it's going to take to get through retirement. Average healthcare cost for a 65-year-old, getting ready to go through their retirement years. So as a recap, what can we do? What are some of the strategies that are going to help people reduce that burden?
Put it into your retirement plan would be the first one. Don't just plan for it earlier. The earlier you start, the easier it is to help fund it and let it grow, especially if you use those HSAs, because now you can take tax growth. You can take the tax part of the initial, and then it comes out tax-free. So if you're not paying taxes, then you're going to be able to, it's going to be easier to hit the mark on that, much better than any retirement plan out there, because there's going to be some sort of tax after or before with the retirement plan. And we want to, time withdrawals. We want to make sure that, we plan for those Medicare premiums, that supplement, that comes with it, to make sure that we're covered if things happen. I would always encourage reaching out to an advisor. And in this particular conversation, it's two advisors potentially. One would be on the health insurance side of it for the supplement or whatever is going on, whatever you're going to supplement your Medicare with, but also with a financial advisor, so you can plan for those costs that are still going to be there, the premiums, the co-pays, the prescriptions, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's excellent and helpful. There's lots of little other nuances we don't have time to cover on today's episode, a high-level view of this healthcare conversation based on some of this recent data. But when you come into the office of somebody like Steve, you're going to get into the nitty and gritty of these details and how they wrap into that entire retirement and financial plan. So it's definitely one of the bigger wild cards in retirement, healthcare, wondering how much of an impact it's going to be on you. This big number might be scary, although it's not meant to scare you, just meant to inform, alert us to the potential that's out there that might come out of our pockets in those retirement years so that we can best prepare for it. But with the right planning, all of that can be covered. So if healthcare is a concern of yours in retirement, you're not quite sure if you've got a plan that can account for it and handle it appropriately, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find contact information to get in touch with Steve specifically in the description of today's show. And don't forget to subscribe for future updates and releases of new episodes on the YouTube channel or on whatever podcast app you're using to listen to today's show. We appreciate you joining us. Steve, thank you for all of your help, and we'll see you again next time on Power Your Retirement.
Excellent. Thanks, Walt. And I just want to tell everybody that hope is not a strategy when it comes to this. Make sure we get a plan to achieve the goal. So thank you, Walt, and thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate you.
This podcast is provided by Powerhouse Financial Advisors, an independent firm with advisory services offered through Parsonex Advisory Services, Inc., PAS, a federally registered investment advisor. The information provided is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered as personalized investment advice. PAS does not guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of this information for your specific circumstances. Investment decisions should be based on an individual's goals, time horizon, and risk tolerance. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and all investments carry a degree of risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any case studies, testimonials, or endorsements shared in this podcast are illustrative of individual experiences and may not be representative of the experience of all clients. They do not guarantee future performance or success. You should not infer any level of assurance regarding future financial outcomes. Listeners should consult with a qualified financial, tax, or legal professional before making any investment decisions. Parsonex Advisory Services, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Be sure to consult with your tax and legal professionals regarding your specific circumstances. For a copy of our Form ADV Part 2A, which provides additional information about PAS, including our advisory fees and services, please visit powerhousefinancialadvisors.com.